Happy Sunday, everybody. All right, so this week I'm going to be doing a 4-part series on surveillance. And the first part, which I'll do tomorrow, will be the surveillance age and what Snowden warned us about. Part 2, Tuesday, the dark arsenal. It would be WikiLeaks, Vault 7, and the global espionage. Part 3, the future of surveillance, like AI, data brokers, and the coming panopticon. Part 4, the actual human cost of how surveillance reshapes psyche and society. And that's really the part that I find interesting, because it does create a sort of a mass psychosis, and that's the part that I think is interesting, and it's a warning. So I wanted to come on, it's Sunday, because before I go this week onto the 4-part, I was doing some research last week on the actual new surveillance state, because most of what I'm going through this coming week is based on Snowden's NSA delivery, what he took from NSA. But these are some new state surveillance techniques. So I want to get into it. So, there's something happening that's very quiet behind the scenes that most people still don't realize. And back in November of 2019, just before, the world shut down, which is, that shot, the Attorney General, Bill Barr, announced a new government initiative. It was called DEEP, D-E-E-P, which is short for Disruption and Early Engagement Program. I found this very interesting because I've been working on a case for myself, and I'm going to get into it to explain what it is. So now on paper, it sounds, like if you read it, it sounds very noble. I mean, it's very interesting, the wording and how they bring this deception out to make it sound good, kind of like the 2030 reset, the agenda. If you read the 12 points, it sounds absolutely like, yes, we're going to feed all the hungry and everybody's going to, but then you read the fine print and it's monstrous. So, and anybody that tells you it's great, then they haven't read the fine print, or they're in the deception department. So, a program that's designed, this is the program that's designed to prevent mass shootings before they happen. It sounds great, doesn't it? But when you really listen to what's being said, you begin to understand that it's something much deeper and much darker. And this program works on the idea, it's called pre-crime. And how do they do this? It's meaning you could be flagged or even arrested before you've committed a crime, simply because an algorithm or data model believes you might be a criminal before you're even a criminal, or a terrorist before you're a terrorist. And people say, well, maybe there's signs, but no, they have to have evidence. And this is where it goes back, and this is where we're always in the fog of war. So the program works on the idea of pre-crime, okay? And how do they decide that? This is really what's important, meaning, you could be flagged, okay? So how do they decide on the model? By analyzing, these are the steps that they do. By first analyzing health records, which they can get into your health record, which happened to me here at Brown University Health. They put on a drug that I was taking and I never took it. And I had to call up the office and then call up the board. I put in all the paperwork because I said, this is BS. I'm not going to allow for drugs to be put on that I've never once taken. I don't take any like aspirin or anything. I'm a freak about all that. So let's get back. By analyzing health records, your social media posts, your online activity, all of it. They claim it's about keeping people safe. But think about what that really means. It's about surveillance. It's about prediction. And it's about control. And here's where it becomes a slippery slope. Because once you open up the door to pre-crime logic, anything can be justified in the name of prevention. I want people to understand this. We can see January 6th what happened. People sat in prison for months, maybe even a year or two, I think. So, and I have a story for myself before I go to the next part, is that I was living in San Francisco in 1998, and I went to this Republican, I wanted to meet people. So I went to this invite, a friend that I met through at Chrissy Park. It was one of her friends, and they said, oh, we're going to this Republican dinner party, blah, 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 you should come. So I said, okay, yeah, all right, great, because I can meet people, right? So I went and I sat next to some professors from Stanford, and this girl that I went with two girls. One of the girls worked on Sand Hill, or Sand Row, whatever they call it, in Silicon Valley. And super, super successful. I mean, the boom was happening for tech. And she was doing, I'm not going to say who it is because she's well known. And so she was introducing me to some professors from Stanford and from Berkeley. There was a bunch of people. It was actually it wasn't really Republican. It was like I thought that's what my other friend said, it's a Republican, but it was more like it was a politics event, both. So, because it's very liberal in San Francisco. And then we were having dinner and talking, and one of the professors next to me started to talk about surveillance of Germans and how it started like 4 or 5 years prior to 1998. And it caught my ear. And I said, what? I said, well, and he was saying that they are pinning out first and second generation of German ancestry. I said, well, I'm second generation. So, what would that mean? Well, they say, well, it depends on what, I said, well, my grandfather was from Germany. And then the rest were all from Czechoslovakia and Poland. And he said, well, then you would most likely be on a list. I said, but I don't even, you know, like what? How would I be on a list? They didn't have social media back then or anything. Like I haven't done I've never done one crime. So he started to break it down and he told me things to do to find out, but I never did it because I'll be honest, I thought he was nuts. A little bit of me, I was looking and I'm like, okay, this guy's, you know, he's far out. But anyways, everybody was listening. Everybody was around. A couple other people, oh, I heard that too, and blah, blah, blah. But they do that on Russians. They were saying too, Russians and Chinese and, you know, different other cultures. And I said, God, that's really odd. You know, it's really weird. So I always kept that in the back. And I had once told my ex-husband, like, you know, that I had met these people. He said, oh, that's a bunch of horse shit, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, who knows? But then I did a startup in 2000, I don't know, it was 10, I think, something like that. And then I ended up closing it in 2018 or 19. I have to look at my paperwork. I don't remember. But anyways, it wasn't, I couldn't, you know, raise money. Like, I don't know. I closed it. But then I remembered what some of the things that they talked about that night. So I ended up putting that I sold my company to a German company bought it because, and I had told Quentin, I said, I'm going to put that, I want to see if these guys are right. Behold, the guys were right. And I have proof of it. And I didn't sell it to anybody. In fact, I was in the hole for like about over $100,000 because it costs a lot of money to have a startup. I mean, we took out, you know, $100,000 off of our home and, you know, everything. And my husband was working like 2 jobs. I was working that job and another job in IT. And, you know, we were juggling. And, you know, it took a lot to run the company. And so I thought it was interesting. I'm not going to give all the details, but it's true. It's literally true. And and when I was doing I actually spoke to a few lawyers. This has been, I don't know, year and a half ago. But anyways, they're experts and I talked to a judge and stuff. And, I mean, there are millions upon millions of lawsuits right now on pre-crime, millions, and people have evidence and they're going to sue our government. It's going to be nasty, super nasty. And so I kind of wanted to throw that out because I know people I thought it was crazy when they were telling me about it. And I was like, there's no way, like, you know, like, I mean, I was very naive. Plus, I was never even in politics ever before Trump started running. And then I got into it. I mean, I didn't even ever look at anything about Obama or anything. I didn't know anything. I mean, I was living my life. Those were the good days before I got into the politics because looking hindsight, politics is part of a game. And I'm not quite sure if it's right for us, to be honest. It's a game that I believe is dirty. It's exactly like the House of Cards series. The House of Cards with Spacey. If you haven't watched that, I beg you to watch it because it is identical to the series. I mean, you've got a lot of Rock Hudsons that are pretending not to be gay, that don't want to, you know, let others know. They don't have the courage, so they pretend and they marry the actress Emily, like Rock Hudson's studio told him, you have to get married and blah, blah, blah. So he married the actress Emily. And I mean, we have a lot of actress Emilys. And, you know, people are, you know, they say, oh, my girlfriend was sleeping on my sofa or whatever, but it's a boyfriend sleeping on your sofa. And it doesn't matter. I'm not bashing any gay, but it's the deception runs so deep within politics that it just isn't honest. And I think everybody's waking up to it, and they're finally seeing that it's just a dirty, dirty game. It's just filthy. So keep that in mind. I thought I would throw my little bit out, and I'm working on something about that. And it's interesting. So, as I said, it's a slippery slope. And because once the door is open to pre-crime logic, people start accusing you of things that you never did, or they make things up, just like the guy, Starbuck, I can't remember his name, but I read it on my last video, where they made up, Google AI made up all these crimes against this person. There's so many lawsuits that people are winning hundreds of millions to billions of dollars on. They all have proof and evidence, and I have proof too. And that's why I left Twitter, because there were MAGA people that are just absolutely monster. They all come from intelligence, Navy, and I saw the circle, and I said, these are the 7,000 club that get paid money for deception. Just like I said, the Richard Doty came out a few months ago and said he worked inside the Air Force for 35 years in a department of deception. 35 years he lied to us, and he was good at it. He even said it. I got so good at it. So it's something to be very aware of when you're on the social media. And, you know, they could do forensics on you and everything. I mean, it's like, it's crazy. It's nuts. But I don't have anything, so they can do all the forensics they want. But the one thing is they can plant it. And this is what people are suing our government and these certain surveillance companies over. But if you're smart and you have proof and evidence, they lose. So let's move on. After the lockdowns and chaos of the pandemic, the Department of Justice even went further, asking for the authority of indefinitely detained Americans without a trial. This is what happened with the January 6th. Let that sink in. Without a trial, without due process. We saw it already. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. In fact, they kind of stomped that out of the news. So to think that this kind of false surveillance dragnet isn't being quietly built in our systems would be naive, because it's already here. That's why I'm doing a 4-part this coming week on it, because it's that important. And it's not just one agency. That's the thing. It's not just one agency. There's another layer that very few people know about. And something called the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence. And just to get back, the guy that the couple professors and the girl on San Row, or I don't know. I think it's, you know, the Silicon Valley where all the big techs were. She's huge. She's gigantic. She said artificial intelligence will track every human being and make up, surveil and make up things if they don't like you or they feel like you're a threat to their program. So it's an artificial intelligence. It's a pre-crime. And it was all chaired by Eric Schmidt of Google, the former head of Google's parent company, Alphabet. And it was filled with all CIA, Pentagon people. In a document that they released, one that almost no major news outlet even covered, they outlined a plan to ensure that the U.S. keeps all the technological advantage over China. Wait until you hear this. In the field of artificial intelligence. But here's the catch, because it's kind of weird. It's not weird, it's frightening. The catch is their solution is this: to remake American society into a surveillance state modeled after China's system. Only more advanced, more integrated, and more evasive. And that's literally the proposal. And it's already happened. I mean, I'm kind of reading. What I'm doing is I put notes together on factual information that I read, and some of this was like a few years prior to now. But as we look, we can see, because like I said, I'm doing something about myself, and it's way past, because I talked to a judge, and he's like an expert, and he has actually have already done cases for United States citizens who this happened to, who are completely had nothing to do with anything that they pinned on. And it was ancestry. That's it. Didn't even know the grandfather. Like, my grandfather died before I was born. And I never even got to know him. You know? But and he was telling me a case of this. It was a Russian person. He was a United States citizen, but ancestry from Russia. I was blown away. The guy won like $100 and something million. He was going case after case with me. And I was like, good, I'm going to win too. And the thing is they're out of control. There's some, see, the way I look at it is this. The people that are putting this together, they're very racist. They have to be, because they hate groups of people. You know, they don't like certain ancestry. And what I've talked to, the attorneys and the judge and stuff like that, it seems to be the same ancestry. And it's wild. So to protect democracy, this is how they're looking at it, the proposal, to protect democracy, okay, by turning it into a monitored grid where every digital movement, every biometric signal that you have, meaning all health, every opinion online is logged, scored, and tracked. And this is exactly what they told me. Some people told me a year ago. So if you go against a group of people, like, I don't know, something, and they have a big, they have a big seat at the table, let's say, then they most likely you're on the target. Like if you voted for Trump or you believed in QAnon and stuff like that, a lot of people were, anyways, this is what they said online. They were getting swatted. And I don't know why they would be swatted. Good God. I mean, a lot of people, it was weird. I was like, good Lord. It's like, good gosh, what the hell were they doing? But I mean, they said they didn't do anything. So and the wildest part, it's being presented as progress and innovation, as safety. Is that they always have to bring it back to, we're doing this for you. For you. But make no mistake, this is about power, not protection. And because whoever controls the data, controls the people. Like the narrative, okay? And the future of freedom depends on whether we wake up to this now, before the last layer of privacy. And this is how I look at it. I'm going to say it. We have left disappears into the cloud. And that next layer is digital, where we get chipped, dipped, and screwed over. This is the wet dream, trust me. And you're not getting out of it, because you say one thing, they're cutting you off. If you have a electric car, it'll probably be turned off. So that's what I have to say, and I'm at 27 minutes. I actually wanted to keep it to 10, but I have lots more coming this week on surveillance and also on eugenics, and you're gonna be blown away. Blown away. It all started in like the 1910s here in the USA with the elitists. The Gilded Age, the Golden Age, the Gilded Age, they all were in on it. So, and then they initiate it through other countries and what have you. So I think you're going to really love that. But I wanted to do a quick little video today just to give you this information, and then I'll see you Monday, and have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you all later. Thank you.